European Union leaders have gathered for a fresh round of talks to discuss the food crisis triggered by the war in Ukraine. Now, this time, they're seeking ways to bypass the blockade on food exports, which Moscow imposed on Ukraine's ports. This comes after the bloc agreed to a partial ban of Russian oil imports. Leaders are expected to call on Moscow to stop its attacks on transport infrastructure and lift curbs on the Black Sea ports. Ukraine says that there are more than 20 million tons of grain stuck in the country, and that's fueling a global food crisis. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that he would be willing to help ease concerns, but only if sanctions on his country were removed. Rosie Bircher joins us live now from Brussels for more. Rosie, Russia's been accused of using food as a weapon in Ukraine. What kind of measures are EU leaders planning to take to ease the grain blockade?
You talked there about a global food crisis. Let's just reflect on that for a second. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that this conflict in Ukraine is threatening tens of millions of people worldwide with malnutrition and hunger. It's with that in mind that EU leaders are trying to look at the details of a plan for how to get this grain out of Ukraine. Tens of millions of tons of grain stuck inside Ukraine at the moment due to those Russian forces blockading Black Sea ports. Now, Ukraine is a major food exporter. It produces about 50% of the world's sunflower oil, about 15% of its corn, 12% of its wheat. What EU leaders have in mind is trying to find alternative export routes through the European Union to get these food products out. That could be by land, could be by rail, by river. Some of those Ukrainian grains have already been exported through ports in Romania, some already getting out through train lines in Lithuania. But this is a huge task. It's very logistically difficult. And of course, the stakes are incredibly high.
Logistically difficult, but at the same time, Russia has blamed EU sanctions for this growing food crisis. How would the latest curbs on Russian oil, though, Rosie, affect any plans to negotiate with Moscow now?
Well, indeed, Moscow has already reacted to this latest plan for a partial oil embargo to be imposed on Moscow by the European Union as part of these latest sanctions. A Russian official is saying that he believes that the EU is trying to target ordinary people in Russia with these sanctions. Now, the European Union, on the other hand, says the goal of these new sanctions and all the sanctions it's imposed on Russia so far is to tighten the screws on the Kremlin's ability to finance this war. And on his way into talks this morning, Latvian Prime Minister Krišjānis Kariņš argued that the tougher the sanctions are, the quicker the war will end. So that's what EU leaders have in mind with these new sanctions. That's their goal here. But of course, so much uncertainty for Ukraine lying ahead. Ukraine would like tougher sanctions still. It would like the European Union to go further than this partial oil embargo and to impose an embargo on Russian gas. That is something on which there's no consensus within the bloc just now. It's a very tricky topic due to the European Union's long-term dependence on Moscow for energy supplies.
Rosie, thank you for that update. Rosie Bircher there in Brussels.